Thank you, Ernesto. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. It's an honor to have Ambassador Cordeiro here. Thank you very much for the presence. The first aspect I have to describe is the powers, or the poles of powers that are keeping or sustaining Bolsonaro's administration. And some are very, very strong. The first one is the economic team with Paulo Guedes, has a very good reputation with the market, with the business community, and have a The second point is the military people that are supporting the administration, not in the political sense, but much more in an ideological sense. They have a strong commitment against corruption, in favor of more efficiency of the public machinery, and they are providing a lot of people, qualified people with very good curriculum to be part of the administration, and this is for sure a great asset of this government. The third aspect is the endorsement of Lava Jato. This is a government that has the endorsement of Lava Jato with the presence of Sérgio Moro as the Minister of Justice. And finally, the rest of the political base. Why the rest? Because we have a centrist Congress in Brazil. Even with this renovation, we have with the renovation, we have more centrist politicians than leftist politicians in the Brazilian Congress. And at least in the first year, the Congress tends to be highly governist, supporting the agenda of the government and giving the majority that is necessary to approve critical issues. Also, we have to consider as an asset in the political base the fact that there are some 100, 120 autonomous, independent congressmen out of 513 that will be the majority in favor of the reforms. So what is clear, this is a government with a strong reformist agenda, anti-establishment government that will govern with the establishment. So this is important to point, or even being anti-establishment because they were elected against the political establishment, they will have the support of the establishment to govern. What are the major risks that I see? A defeat in the Social Security reform is a risk for sure, or the approval of a weak Social Security reform, but I give 30% of chances of having a deception with the Social Security reform. In the economic terms, I see a very positive scenario, because, and you know more than I about that, and you know that we have in the shelves a lot of PPPs that could be offered to the business community. Citibank, Marangon said that Brazil can receive between FDIs and speculative investments around $180 billion this year. Even not being this amount is a very significant flow of money to Brazil. I expect Brazil remain, even with problems with Dilma and Temer, a top 5 destination of FDIs. I believe that at least Brazil will remain being this top priorities for FDIs in the next year. And also, I see the dynamics of the economics that we had since last year very positive. So Brazil probably will grow 2.5% this year, and establishing a new cycle, a new dynamics in economic terms. I do not see any risk in terms of inflation. We have a space in our capacity in the industry to produce more without having problems with the price. This is the point that I would like to stress before finishing, is the fact that we have, besides the Social Security, an agenda of reform that is really, really important, that will tackle with the red tapes of Brazil, making more simple the tax system of Brazil. Brazil is a country that we spend almost 2,000 hours just to pay taxes. And the average in the world is 250 hours. So can you imagine, if we cut in 50% the red tapes of paying taxes, will be a lot of relief for the business community. So what I am really bullish in Brazil is the focus of this economic team in making Brazil a better place for investing. I believe that the government has the tools to create a proper environment to approve a fair social security reform. But I believe that also that this will take at least the semester at the House, and probably if they depend on the shape of sending the reform, if they will cut. I suggested to the economic team, to the government, to cut the reforms in pieces, to avoid the civil servants that are the more fierce resistance, to use the others as a shield to impede the social security reform.
Is there a threshold on the savings of the pension reforms where you consider it very successful, or a threshold below the one you say this one will disappoint? The 30% probability you put of disappointing reform, it's savings less than 500 billion rands, just like the dilutive tenor reform.
No, I work more with the perception of failure, because more than a perception or not related to the amount of savings. See, what I see as important is to, as a success, is to approve a new regime for the future.
That might include individual accounts or not? It doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not necessary.
Everybody from the day one in the future will be submitted to a general social security system. If they want to have additional pensions, they will pay for that, period. Or related to their professions and in specific situations. I see these are, in my opinion, would be a great success. But then the market say, no, but you are not resolving the problem of the stock. You are just resolving the problem of the future. Okay, but if we resolve the problem of the future is brighter. Well, China, for sure, is a very important partner of Brazil. We remain a very important partner. I believe today the concerns of the new administration in relation to China are not in terms of trades, but more in relation to investments, because China is invested a lot in Brazil in the recent years. So there are some concerns in having a kind of dependency in relation to China, but this is just a concern. I don't know how this will progress, but clearly Brazil now is trying to have more freedom to have stronger bilateral relations, and this, in my opinion, is very positive. I am in favor of Mercosur. I understand that Mercosur cannot be a problem for us to have a better trade relation with the United States, for example, or with Europe. So I do not see a major problem with China in terms of trade, but I believe that Brazil will take a look to see who are investing more in Brazil than what they consider acceptable in geopolitical terms. This is one point. The second point, the new corridors. Actually, Brazil needs to develop a stronger strategy to be more important in the trade business in the world. We have a very small participation in the trade in the world, even being one of the largest producers of food and iron ore, for example. But I do not see how this will be addressed by the new government. And also, what is important to understand, 90% of our problems are Brazilian made. So the government are focused in solving our problems. So the external problems are really not very important for us. What are important is public safety, fiscal deficit, better labor regulations, better environment of investment, less red tape. Very important is the combination of the culture of compliance that become more strong in Brazil after 2010 with the economic boom we had. So a lot of compliance procedures became more relevant in the business community in Brazil. And with Lava Jato, then just the combination of these two things turned stronger the good habits in the business, and especially in the business with the state in Brazil, with the public administration. So the effect of Lava Jato is really important for Brazil, to make Brazil a better place for the investments and a better place in terms of use of the public money.
But sometimes it sort of withholds business or delays it as settlements don't happen. And also there's still talk of other Acuerdo de Lenencia, for example, Antonio Post. Can you talk about that? Just how does it just affect the business dealings going forward?
Yeah. Well, that's a problem because unfortunately we don't have a legal framework that can assure that a plea bargain or a leniency agreement are stable in all with all the actors of the public administration. I know that some companies made the agreements with the court in Curitiba, and then the General Accountability Office, the TCU, are obliging another agreement. The CGU, the General Control of the Union, also. So this is something that is a negative side effect. But I believe that after all these years, we will reach a kind of understanding about that. So I believe that the culture of compliance is becoming very strong in Brazil. And this is a very positive stuff, and will give to the lawyers money and happiness for many years, because we need them. And we are having, you know, this, the worst of both worlds. In Brazil, normally the contracts were thin like that and the law is big like that. Yeah? In the US, the contracts are big like that and the law is very... Now we are having in Brazil law like that and contracts like that also, because it's compliance stuff. So lawyers are very happy. Brazil implemented in the last 2 years a very profound program of reforms, and we did. We recovered the oil sector, which had horrible rules imposed by Dilma. We restored the energy sector. We reformed the outsourcing law. We created an outsourcing law. We changed the labor regulation that is reducing a lot of labor disputes in Brazil. We established the cap of spendings in the Constitution, which is a revolution thing that the United States is far from doing, for example. So we did many reforms, and others reforms. The BNDES rules, the TJLP. So when we talk about the reforms, we are not saying that Bolsonaro is coming to do the reforms. Bolsonaro is coming to continue with the reforms, and Brazil is reaching the reforms. We also approve reforms that the market is not looking. The reforms of the funding for elections, the reform of threshold for the parties to reduce the party fragmentation. We approved the end of the business money in the elections also. So Brazil is a country under reforms. It's a process of reforms. What is under dispute is the speed and the profundity of the reforms. And we have to see that. I believe that we wish to have the reforms because finally the fiscal is impairing the politicians to do politics. And the necessity to create a new regime will oblige them to approve a reform to have money to invest in politics.